All right, Boiler Nation. This is Habitual Boiler with BUBD. Man, we've got a big one tonight. This is actually our first ever video live stream. I couldn't even tell you if it's actually working right now, but we hope it is. Um, we've got a bunch of special co-hosts tonight, but before we get to introducing everybody, what I want to do is bring on our very special guest, uh, Rosevelt Colvin. Roosevelt, my man, it is such a freaking honor to have you on here tonight. You are by far the biggest guest that we've ever had. And no offense, Race, no offense. Um, as I said earlier, we'll be respectful of your time, but I want to get your thoughts on a lot of things. But let's start with I follow you on Twitter,
Mhm.
and I know you pay attention to this football squad, and you have for years. By the way, I didn't say two-time Super Bowl champion Roosevelt
Mm.
Colvin.
Yeah.
Uh, so give me your thoughts on this team, and not only this team, but like Coach Brom and what he's been able to do with this program. And go run with that for now.
I'd say, as a program specifically, like Purdue, your school is very similar to a Northwestern, to a Stanford, to those, I'd say, athletic schools that academics are really, really important or difficult for athletes to be involved in. Um, and the standards are a little bit different. And so the athlete that you recruit is a little bit different. And sometimes you're going to get, really, really good players. And then sometimes you're going to miss out on those kids because they don't look at the university like they may look at, Michigan or Ohio State or Alabama when it comes to football, or, a blue blood in basketball like a Kentucky or, Kansas. And there's good and bad in that. There's six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. I think I said it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, pre-pandemic, that it takes a really special student athlete to excel and be good at Purdue, just because you have to go there for a purpose and a reason. And I went to Purdue for a couple of specific reasons. One, it was probably one of my only major college choices, and then two, I wanted to be an engineer. And so I wasn't dead set on, hey, I'm going to the NFL. That was just an opportunity to happen. So what Coach Brom has done, and the reason I said everything I did the last 15 minutes of that rundown, but I say that is because I think we were very fortunate to get Coach Tiller when he was at Purdue. I think the administration kind of fumbled the bag a little bit with that and not retaining some of the staff. If you go back and look at Coach Tiller's staff, every one of those guys that were on his staff my last 2 years are either head coaches somewhere, offensive coordinators in the NFL, or in some pro league, or have gone on to do similar situations in that status. And it just goes to show what Coach Tiller recruited at the time. Unfortunately, we couldn't keep all those folks, and so we were fortunate to have Coach Tiller then. Really grew the program and the sense of joy about Purdue football for years, and then kind of went and took a little bit of a dip with a few guys, and then I think with Coach Brom coming in, sort of a wild card. He's looking for a stepping stone from where he was to where going to a major Power Five university. Kind of fought off, I think, Louisville for a year or so, and him trying to go back home. But I think we're very fortunate to have him, and then as he's grown, young players, gotten, Rondell Moore. I think only reason he came to Purdue was because of Coach Brom. You're fortunate to have a couple of quarterbacks that have done well under him. Then you get David Bell that does well. Karlaftis, he, carries the den of defensive ends tradition. Those little nuggets, I think, help continue to allow us to be successful. And we're just, I think as a program, we're trying to get over the hump. And I said it before the season. I said this is a really, really good year for us to be in the running to win the West. Anytime you got a veteran quarterback, it bodes well because you got a veteran decision maker. If we could get to the Big Ten championship, regardless of who you're playing, it does a lot for the alumni. It does a lot for those kids that are being recruited or that have committed. And to be honest, you look at Coach Brom's record versus highly ranked teams, he's done pretty good. And if I look at everything that has transpired over his tenure, there hasn't been many times where we've been outplayed, or it's been a really, really bad game versus a highly ranked team. So I think he's going to prepare them well, specifically for this weekend. And not to continue talking longer and longer, but I think at the end of the day, I have confidence that they'll go in there and play well. I have confidence that they'll make plays. When you are the underdog, the biggest thing in a big game like that is to not give up big plays. Can you take a punch if they hit you with one? Can you stand there and hit them back, or can you withstand that and hold on for a little while just to keep yourself in it, and then potentially try to have a chance to win it? Because pressure changes a lot of things for a lot of people.
So we're loaded full of questions here. I'm gonna turn it over to Riles. You got to be off mute, Riles.
Yeah. I'm getting there. So coming when you were in school as one of the members of the Den of DNs, I think coming into this season, a lot of people thought the defensive line was going to take a step back, especially without a guy like George Karlaftis. But when you kind of take a step back and look at the season as a whole, the defensive line was probably by far and away the best part of the defense. And it looks like also the offensive line is significantly probably better than they've had under the Brom era. Can you kind of speak to, as someone who came through like as a freshman, coming through and developing as a lineman, like how difficult that can be and how long that takes to kind of build that depth and that skill at those positions? Because football is not like basketball where you get that one big recruit and you can completely turn your program overnight. You kind of have to build from the ground up. And especially with how the young players have played in the trenches this year, it looks like we've got a foundation to have more success going on because you kind of build your teams from the lines out.
Yeah. I don't think it really has to be specific in the offensive or defensive line. I think in any sport, depth is really, really key and important. Sorry, that's Raven trying to ask me a question, so I apologize for the tone. But I think
you can hop on if she wants. We'll just make.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me delete. Anyway, but I think depth, regardless of the sport, is important because it creates what's the word I'm looking for? It creates a opportunity if there is a situation or if there's a need to go past the first two or three guys that are on the field, you still are performing at a high level. And I say a high level, that's 85, 90%, and you can call everything in your wheelhouse, and you don't have to restrict yourself in any way. And that right there, to me, is really the difference between, Purdue and, some other universities in specific sports, in that football, so to speak, if you got 11 guys on the field, you take the wide receivers. Just look at the wide receivers for this year at Purdue. You got maybe two or three guys. I was at the first game, I think it was against Penn State, and they played like 4 or 5 guys. And Charlie Jones did really well. The kid that just said that he was coming back next year, he did okay. I think that was the game he kind of, went down and he didn't come back after that. But after those two guys, you didn't see anybody else. And I specifically said, because I think it was Miles's, official visit. I told Miles, I said, man, if they don't find anybody other than 15, then all you gotta do is shut him down, and they, they're kind of figured out. And so depth is the key, in my personal opinion, for any team that's in high school or college sports, because if you do figure out who their go-to person is, so you can go to the volleyball team, right? Eva is what the volleyball, they set her every other set, and as soon as the other team said, you know what, if we just shut the freshman down, then we got a shot to really beat Purdue. You go to the basketball team last year, you couldn't really do that because they had Jaden, they had Travion, they could go to Zach. You look at them this year, everybody's saying if you just shut Zach Edey down, then you got a shot, and people haven't figured out how to shut Zach Edey down. So Purdue, the basketball team, is rolling. Football wise, I think, the defensive line, as you have mentioned, creates a different mindset. And when I was there, when I came in as a freshman, it was very similar to that, right? I came in as a freshman. In my freshman class, I was the only freshman that didn't really get to play. I played special teams. Everybody else played their specific position that they were recruited in that year. And then my sophomore year, I got the chance to play and start, and I rotated in with Craig Williams and Chike and Chuki were out there. And so, it was more by committee. When you find that one special nugget, that one kid or that one guy that can carry a position, then you ride that guy. And fortunately enough, my junior year, my senior year. So my junior year, I rarely came off the field. My senior year, Chike came back. He was playing the other end. Then we had Chuki coming off the bench. And I think, we had the depth, and then we had playmakers. So when you could do that, that's where you look at a team where you look at the Alabamas and you look at the Michigans, you look at the, all those top tier programs every year, because they have a guy that's a starter, that's a 5-star recruit, and a guy that's a backup, that's a 5-star or a 4-star. And the only difference between the 5-star and the 4-star, or the 5-star and the 5-star, is who started and who finished the game. So I think depth is really, really key. I think they've done a phenomenal job of coaching that group of guys, and you can see it because they don't individually sub. They typically mass sub. I got a couple relationships with a couple guys that are on the in the defensive line room, and so when they sub, typically it's like the second or third series of the game. They send all 4 new guys out there, and I don't think they lose a whole lot when those 4 guys go on the field. And then the next drive, you'll see them. They'll sub the first group back in there, and they'll rotate out based on how long the drive is. And so I think depth is always going to be a crucial aspect of developing a team, and the longevity, because if you have a guy that goes down either in the game or during the season, you want to be able to put somebody in and use that next man up mantra. But if the next man up is not really a man, then it's difficult. So you got to develop those guys in the off season and as the season goes along, and then you got to trust that they're working hard to put themselves in a position to be successful when they go out there as well.
All right, I think I'm up, Rosevelt. Mm-hmm. My question is going to be another D-line question. They've got a tall task this week with Michigan's best line that we've probably faced. Not the biggest, though. But what do you think that the Purdue defensive line needs to do to be successful? Or what would you say is a successful game for the defensive line this week?
Well, I think if I recall correctly, Michigan's first running back is not playing in the game. Okay, so there goes back to the depth question, right? So if their first team running back is not playing in the game, who's next, right? So let's compare Purdue's first team running back at the beginning of the year was, I think it was the King Dure kid.
Yeah, Duru.
And then after him, you're looking at, it was another kid that was a transfer. He didn't play. Then Maccabee got a shot along with the other kid. I think he's number 38.
Downing.
Right? And so, we look at our starting running back and then our second team running back are 2 walk-ons, which not to knock against them being walk-ons, but you look at Michigan, their first team running back goes down. They got a kid, they throw a kid in there that goes in and rushes for 200 yards. And so I think it's a luxury that what Coach Brom had with those 2 guys to be able to fill in. But going back to the Michigan question and what does the D-line have to do, they just got to maintain their gaps. Gap integrity is always important when you play defensive line. If I'm the C gap player, stay in the C gap. If I'm the B gap player, stay in the B gap. If you don't have a bunch of guys out there trying to be heroes, which they don't, I very, very rarely see any of the defensive linemen maybe once or twice a game out of their gap, which is, I'd say, a credit to Hagan and him being the defensive coordinator, attention to detail. It's very, very important to maintain gap integrity. If they maintain gap integrity, then it boils down to who's one-on-one and who can get off a block and make a tackle. And I very rarely see them getting overpowered and in bad positions when it comes to trying to make those plays. So if the 4 or 5 guys on the defensive line can maintain gap integrity and do their job, then it boils down to, okay, can the linebacker see the play and fill the other gaps that are there, and then make those tackles when their opportunity presents itself. So if you can stop the run with the front seven, right, and limit that part of the game and force Michigan to, make a play, right? If you just don't give up big plays, like you can't stay. I call it, I coach middle school football at a small Christian school here in Indianapolis. It's the same school Miles goes to, but I've been coaching over there for going on 6 or 7 years now. And I just tell the kids, if you just make them earn it, don't give them more credit than they deserve, right? They're on scholarship just like we're on scholarship, all right? They lifted weights in the summer just like you lifted weights in the summer. And if you just go out there and just do your best, we need the best version of you every time you're out there. And if the defensive line can just maintain gap integrity, not give up, big plays in the run, stay ahead of the chains, right? Stay ahead of the chains means limit them to 2-3 yards a down. That means at third down, it comes down to 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 at best. Make a play, make a stop, make them punt, keep it moving. And the more you can do that, the better opportunity you have to give Aiden and the offense a chance to figure out their defense and potentially just create, like I said, that pressure situation, because pressure doesn't just affect players, it affects coaches too. Guy got to call the right play, and if he calls the wrong play and doesn't want to lose the game, and they're literally trying to talk about. I mean, you got podcasts trying to fire the guy in Ohio State because he lost the game to Michigan 2 years in a row, and it's not that serious.
Yeah. Yep. Boiler Blondie, what you got?
All right, so you kind of answered a little bit of my question was going to be. What kind of words of wisdom do you have for the guys if you were in the locker room before the game? And you kind of just mentioned, make them earn it. Do you have any other kind of, motivation for them if you were standing in there with them?
If I had an opportunity to stand in front of them, I think the biggest thing I would say is, don't discount the work that you've put in as a Purdue Boilermaker since the end of the last bowl game, right? You get off the flight from the bowl game, you enjoy that moment, that great win, and then you get back to work. Spring ball rolls in, and then you go home for a little bit for the summer, and then Penn State game is right around the corner. Don't discount what you've put in. Don't give them a discount for just because they got maize and blue on, and then seize the opportunity. I mean, there are so many alum that are so proud. Like literally, there are people like the day they won, then the basketball team did what they did. The volleyball team got their bid to go, for NCAA. I saw more Purdue stuff running around Indianapolis than I hadn't seen in 2 or 3 years, which is fine because everybody's going to be, and when they're doing bad, they're going to hide it, and when they're doing well, they're going to boast it. But I think at the end of the day, I would just tell the boys, man, you got the backing of an entire community around you, and it's just as good as any other alumni base. You're playing not only for yourselves, but you're playing for your moms, your dads, aunts, uncles, your family members, but those teachers, those counselors that helped you get to this point, because everybody's going to watch the game, right? My son, or Billy. You remember Billy that graduated in 2017? He's a senior this year on the Purdue Boilermakers, and he's going to be playing downtown. Everybody's going to watch, and I would say everything that you've done over the last 5, 6, 7 months to prepare for a moment like this, now's the time, right? Now's the time that every film that you've watched comes into play. Now's the time that every weight that you've lifted, every ounce of energy that you have. This is the most important game because it's the next game, but it's the biggest game of your life because it's the Big Ten championship game, and they literally have an opportunity to go out and shock the world. And I don't think that they should think that they can't do it. And if I'm Brom, I'm putting on the tape of Ohio State. I'm putting on the tape of Ohio State from 2-3 years before that when they beat them. I'm putting on. If my memory serves me correctly, Michigan came to Purdue a couple years ago, and we gave the game away. I believe. I think we were.
We were. No, it was 7-0, and then was it 7-7? And then Eddie took out the quarterback, and O'Kern came in, and we weren't ready for him.
Yeah, and basically Joe Montana 2.0. You don't prepare for the backup quarterback. He comes in, he does stuff that's out of his mind because he doesn't even really know what to do. But I just think that, Jeff's a wild card, specifically to these other coaches, because of how he coaches, how he calls the game, right? And I think, having Aiden back there is a huge benefit because he kind of, runs things to an extent that is beneficial. I think it's going to come down to, they're going to take like Penn State, they're going to put, like they put Joey Porter Jr. on once they figured out who the guy was, they put him on what's the kid's Charlie, what's his last name?
Charlie Jones.
Charlie Jones. They put Joey Porter Jr. on Charlie Jones. Now, hey, what are you going to do? Wide receiver 2, 3, and 4, and can Aiden find that guy or the Payne Durham, the tight end? Like, okay, offensive coaches, when they take this away, this is where we got to go to, and it just boils down to performance and boils down to making a catch and making a play, not giving up a big play, and offensively staying ahead of the change. Right? I know Jeff's philosophy and mindset because you can see it. He wants big plays and he wants to throw the ball around all the time. But I learned from Bill a long time ago, man. If it's you got 3 downs. If you can get 3.5 yards every down, then you matriculate to the first down. You just watch and repeat. And then sometimes you get a situation where you may want to do a little bit more because you got more than those 3.5 yards. But man, I think we got enough juice to get 3.5 yards a play.
Hey, Roosevelt, I wanted to piggyback off something you said earlier. You said Purdue's kind of like the Northwesterns, the Iowas of the world, and the Michigan, Ohio State's kind of a tier above. What would you say Purdue and or Brom needs to do to build on this success and compete with those guys on a regular basis?
So I wouldn't say that they're a tier above. I would say they're looked at in a different light just because of their history, right? And so, I guess you can take it, depending on who's telling the story. But I think I have friends that attended those universities, and I tell them all the time I had the greatest experience of my life being at Purdue. I wouldn't trade the 4 years that I had at Purdue for anything. And I don't hear them saying that about their university. Now, I don't listen to them on their on podcasts, and I don't go to their alumni, spring banquets or whatever it may be. But I just know that, fortunately, I had 2 years that we were successful as a team. I was able to get drafted, go to the NFL, and I always look back at those moments when I was at Purdue as life-changing experiences. My best friend to this day, I have a best friend I grew up with, but my best friend to this day is Ed Watson. That was on the team with me there at Purdue. I played 3 years with him. He, played a couple years in the NFL. He lives here in Indianapolis area now, and does a lot of real estate. And I talk to him almost every other day, right? Game is on. We're texting back and forth with each other about this and about that. I think what Coach Brom has to do and what the team has to do is what they're doing right now is just continue to win. They're gonna get, there's really good athletes in Indiana, right? There's really good athletes in Illinois that may not want to go to Illinois. Well, the success of what Illinois is doing is going to recruit some of those in-state kids to stay there. But I think the last 2 or 3 years we probably lost out on a couple kids that went to Indiana that may have been difference makers here with us. But you can go get an Ohio kid, right? You can go get a 4-star Ohio kid that may be thinking he can go to Ohio State and like, man, don't go to Ohio State if you want to. You come over here, you can play all 4 years, right? You can use the Charlie Jones factor. You can go to Iowa and be a special teams guy and the 4th wide receiver. Come over here, I'll throw you the ball 100 times throughout the year. You get 100 receptions, make all Big Ten, and potentially go to to the NFL. I think there are things that they can use. There's little nuggets that they can offer and put out there. But I think the biggest thing is just continue to win. I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't say we should. That there was a greater opportunity to be in the same position Penn State's in right now, being a top 10 team, right, with only 1 or 2 losses, because there's a couple losses that we could easily say we should have wholeheartedly won that game. And but I think what Coach Brown just needs to do is keep winning. This is a huge stage, and like I mentioned in the tweet, as soon as they won, as soon as they put the hey, we're the West champions right out there. It gave every alum a pound your chest moment, but it also gave every kid that committed, that signed their letter of intent on November 9th, man, I'm going to Purdue, right? The place I'm going is representing the West in the championship game. And so for me, sorry, that's my oldest daughter texting me, but for me, I think the biggest thing they can do is just keep winning. They just keep putting the brand on the map by having it out there and being talked about. And I said it collectively as a whole, the athletic department too, but you look at what Coach Brom and the football team did, you look at what Coach Painter and the basketball team did, you look at what Katie did in the women's basketball team and being 6-1 and coming home with the win. And then ultimately what the volleyball team, they go out, Raven does well, sets a record for the Big Ten in blocks. They stumble a little bit when they go to Penn State, but then going to the NCAA tournament, getting another bid, another year into the tournament. For the brand, man, it was a phenomenal week. The basketball team obviously was the biggest, obviously, talk of the town because now they're top 5 in the country and all that stuff. But man, I think for the brand of Purdue, it just continues to allow those kids in the Midwest, right, to see another option. Because I remember when I came to Purdue, I knew what Purdue was, but the kids that coming from Florida, they didn't know. They were like, man, I don't know, where is Purdue at, right? They didn't know where, specifically Willie Fells, Lee Johnson, Willie Burroughs. I had no idea where Purdue was, and I just came because I knew I was getting the opportunity to play at a Division I university. And those dudes were really talented guys.
Well, Roosevelt, you brought it up, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Raven and Miles. I think I read in an article the other day online after Raven had 16 blocks was a Big Ten record. Yeah. Said Raven Colvin, know the name, remember it, and because I've been writing about it for several years. She's an absolute beast and a pleasure to watch. Yeah. And then Miles, I don't know. I know Purdue just lost a freak athlete in Jaden Ivey, but buddy, I don't know that I've seen an athlete of that stature in quite some time, or if ever, in black and gold. And we were super excited. Is there any way that you can convince him to stay for 4 years at Purdue?
I'd say the difficult thing for me, I talk to many people. I say many people. I get hit and get inquiries from a lot of people. For a while there, everybody was wondering if he really was going to, stay at Purdue, right? And the whole Nigel Pack thing, him leaving with the, the money and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, man, at 15, they offered Miles $500,000 and we said no. So, and the reason why we said no, the biggest reason why, he said he wanted to go to Purdue and he wanted to go to school with Raven. And for me, I was like, man, that's cool. That's a really cool thing. He doesn't, at that age, he didn't know. He didn't even know that he was gonna. He was offered $500,000 until after I told the people no. And realistically, I told the people no because I didn't want to give up my son at such an early age and have him move out of the house and stuff like that. Because there were still things that I needed to teach him. There was life lessons that he hadn't gone through. He didn't have his driver's license, stuff like that. So to say, can I convince Miles to stay 4 years? That's hard because there's a difference between $500,000 and $10 or $12 million. But I've had really good talks and conversations with Coach Painter about these types of things. Other sources and resources of people that are in that world that kind of know talent and see talent. And then he's kind of strapped anyway because he's so young. He won't. He'll be 17 he'll be 17 as a freshman when he walks on campus. And very similar to me, I walked on campus. I was 17. I left Purdue. I didn't step foot in a bar in Lafayette until the day of the first round of the NFL draft in 1999. And the only reason I went out that night was because I was mad that I didn't get drafted. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to go in the first round. So I just went out and hung out. Now, I'm not a drinker. I've never drank alcohol ever in my life. I just went because I was 21 finally, and I was like, I can go and show my ID. I ain't going to be here that much more longer, so let me go hang out with my buddies. But Miles is going to be 17 years old on campus. And you talk about Jaden and his athletic ability and who he was as a player. I hate to even say it because I don't want to put the pressure on the kid because I put more pressure on him anyway. He's just as athletic as Jaden. I'll say that. The kid's jump shot is. I've had pro guys tell me I've never seen a kid that young shoot the ball that well and his form be the way it is. Not to bring up the Hoosiers, but Mike Woodson, when Miles is the youngest kid to ever get offered by Butler, Purdue, and IU at the same time, right? And so Mike Woodson, people don't know this, Mike Woodson is an Indianapolis native, graduated from same high school as me, Browerville High School. And Mike Woodson literally told me, he said, "Hey, man, your son reminds me of myself when I was younger." He said, "I don't see him not being a pro basketball player. It'd be hard for me not to see him one and done." But he said, "I want to be the person that molds him and shapes him into that player." And coming from Mike, and I'm not a cusser, he said, "And I wouldn't bullshit you." He said, "I'm not that type of guy." And that to me gave me a little bit more perspective of how good Miles was at 15 or 16. And then that allowed me to say, we really gotta figure out what his path is going to be and help him to maintain that. And so I don't know about 4 years, but I'm just hoping to get him there for the first year. And man, the way the team is playing right now is awesome. It's awesome to see. Like I said, it brings pride to the brand, and he's itching to be a part of it. He's still got his high school season that he's going through right now. It's already started at 2 games in. But I would love. I'm just itching to see him around more guys that have the same ability or like ability that he has, and to see how he fits in. But he's got to continue to work hard and continue to do things that have projected him to where he is right now. But I'm just trying to keep his head on straight and make sure he understands what hard work means, so he can put himself in a position in 2 or 3 years to benefit the sowing that he's been doing.
Well, maybe that ask was too big. Maybe we should have just said, "Hey, a couple years will get it."
Yeah, we're gonna take it one day at a time, and trust me, he's excited. He loves Purdue, and I say that because and we've never force fed Purdue to our kids, but we were very fortunate with Raven and how that situation worked out with the club that she played for, and the coach and the person that ran that club had a tie to Purdue and gave a little heads up to Coach Shondell or Dave and them that this kid's pretty good. And then the basketball thing for Purdue, I think Miles was a young kid, but the thing Matt and them said in the meeting on his unofficial visit, which was June, I think 2020, they said, "Hey, every time we see a tape of you, you get better and better, and you check a lot of boxes." So Payne said, "You check a lot of boxes." He said, "I don't owe your dad anything, and he doesn't owe me anything because he's never invited me to his house, and I've never invited him to mine. But we're going to offer you a scholarship because we think you're a pretty good basketball player." And Miles, I had to tell the kid to speak up and say thank you and I said, "Man, why did you say anything?" He said, "Man, I didn't know what to say." He said, "I was speechless because I was surprised." And so it's a humbling situation for us, and for me as a dad, man, to be able to experience what I've experienced in my lifetime, Super Bowls, and playing with the greatest quarterback ever and the greatest coach, and playing for some great organizations and having some great teammates. Even all my time at Purdue, for Raven to do what she's doing right now, and then Miles to be potentially getting the opportunity he has, I'm blessed beyond measure. And every day I pinch myself, and I thank the Lord for His unmerited favor, not just in my life, but for them as well.
Well, I can tell you, we're super excited to get Miles on campus. We're extremely excited that we get an NCAA tournament and yet 2 more years from Raven. And I'm sure more records are yet to be broke. I know second team All Big Ten is an honor, but it also feels like a little bit of a snub there too. Yeah. So we think the great things are ahead there. And we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. And thanks for taking the time to get on with us nobodies and do this.
No
Are you
problem,
going
man.
Are you going to game Saturday?
So got a lot going on in the next I'd say 72 hours. So tomorrow, we're headed to Louisville to watch Raven them. They play at 4:00. Then come back from Louisville. Hopefully they win. If they win, which they got to face Tennessee, but hopefully they win. Saturday, if they win, they would play Saturday at 6:00. But Miles has a 3 p.m. showcase game in it's a big tournament called Sneakers for Santa here in Brownsburg in the Indianapolis area. And so I won't be able. So my wife Tiffany, she's gonna go. Hopefully, if Raven and wins, she's gonna go to Ravens match on Saturday. I have the Big Ten Network asked me to come on at 2:00 for the pregame show with my good friend Mike Hall. So I'm gonna go downtown and do that. And then right after that, I'm headed to Miles's game. Right after Miles's game, I'm gonna head back downtown to the game and to the Big Ten championship game, and hopefully pull one out. I've been present for I think a couple top last year they played Michigan State. Michigan State was like number 3 in the country, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Played last year.
Mm-hmm.
I was the honorary captain for that game. They won that game. I think I was at the Rondell Moore Ohio State game? I can't remember if I was at that game, but I have a decent track record of being present at Purdue football games. So hopefully, say again.
We need to get you to this game then somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there. Don't worry about it. I will be at the game. Let's just hope that they do well. But again, as I mentioned, the brand, Purdue brand, right? It's huge for the Purdue brand because it's going to be broadcast everywhere across the country. Everybody's going to be watching it to see if Michigan fails, so that then they can push another team back into the top 4. And if I'm a betting man, I'll bet $1 that my Boilermakers will take it and win the game, make a few plays here or there, and because quarterback play is everything. That kid, I think the kid is a young kid that's the quarterback, if I'm not correct. So they could just stop the run and put the ball in that kid's hands. I look at Michigan. I don't know if they have a stellar high. Do they have a wide receiver that was really
Ronnie Bell was 3rd team All Big Ten, but he's only 3rd team All Big Ten because he plays with an M next to his name.
So if I look at that, right? So that's why I say if I'm a quote unquote lower tier team, Michigan, what do they do that's going to give us problems? Are they going to throw the ball deep because they're going to be faster than our DBs? I don't think so, because our DBs are pretty solid, right? We play well in the secondary, which was a problem 5 or 6 years ago. We had kids that, I hate to say, they had kids that couldn't tackle.
Whoa now. That was my team. Relax.
Okay, then you have the D line, right? So we don't depend on one guy to be a world stopper. We got 4 guys that run in there, and so from a defensive standpoint, can we frustrate them? Yeah, give me a good brother English and what's the D coordinator's name?
English.
English.
And Hagen, yeah, give me a good game plan. Y'all give me a good game plan. The kids will perform, and then it'll be up to figuring out. If they take away option 1 and option 2 away. Option 1 is 15. Option 2 is the tight end. Then we got to run the ball, or we got to get somebody else the ball in the passing situations and just move the ball. And I think we got a shot. I definitely think we got a shot, and hopefully, I'm not for sure how they blew Ohio State out. I didn't even watch the game, but at the end of the day, man, new day. That's why they play the game. It's a team game, team sport, and any given Saturday, right? It used to be in my game. It used to be any given Sunday, but any given Saturday, I'm betting on my Boilers, and I hope that they show up and show up well.
You have a final score prediction?
Man, I think to be honest, if we really want a legitimate opportunity to win the game, I think we're not kicking field goals. Unless, because we're going for it. If it's a 40-yard field goal, I think the young kid has struggled a little bit. That may be because we were outside, but I'll take it. I'll take 24-17, right? I think if we're going to win the game, we got a field goal is going to push it out there for us. We got to, be successful on at least 5 or 6, drives, and we got to keep them from, scoring and making big plays. I think if we do that and just keep it even, and stay ahead in the turnover, ratio, I think we got a shot. But I would say 27. Did I say 27-14?
24-17.
24-17. So a touchdown. So we score 3 times. So Charlie Jones gets a touchdown. Maccabee gets a touchdown. Payne Durham gets a touchdown. Right, those 3 guys. Or you mix it up and give somebody else. Field goal kicker gets a kick. And I don't know who they got to run. Who they have to do anything with the ball. But you make them play from behind. It's a different team, right? They're not running the ball. Make them pass it, and hopefully it goes from there. So we'll see if my prediction, comes to fruition.
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
I say you're an easier interview than Matt Painter.
What? Matt's a good dude, man. He talks a lot.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You talk just as much, so we don't have to do anything. We just sit here and listen. That's great. That's great.
Sorry about that.
No, that's great. Much appreciated for your time tonight. And we'll let you hop off here, and maybe now that we have a connection, you can jump back on someday.
Hey, we got plenty of content coming. I actually, the crazy thing is, I was trying. I hate to keep talking.
Keep going.
So I was at obviously at Purdue volleyball, and Dave's son? Yeah, Dave's son does the Purdue volleyball broadcast, and then Mo Hornick is joins them for the home matches and some close away games. And so I told him, I said, man, we need to do a version of the Manning cast for Purdue volleyball. So for me, I was going to bring Brielle Warren, me and her dad played together in New England. I said, if you let me and Ty just talk about the game, talk about the match, I guarantee you it would be nonstop comedy. I'm in a transition phase right now. I'm trying to figure out how I can get my version of that, and I think I want to do it. I'm gonna try to reach out to Purdue Sports and see if they would allow that to happen. Not to say that Brother Quinn that does the radio for Purdue that nobody's listening to that, but entertainment is what people are looking for, and I think I'd be okay at it. I think I'll have a good time at it.
That would be incredible. So not that we have thousands and thousands of followers, but do you have anything that you want to shout out from your side? I know you're a businessman, or if you have anything going on,
Yeah, no, I don't have a whole lot, man. I mean, obviously, it's peak season for UPS and shipping. So if anybody's in the Indianapolis area, please give us grace, man. If you don't know, the workforce is being hit really, really hard. So a lot of us small business owners are fighting for good workers and good folks that show up and good folks that want to, earn a dollar. So if you visit any of my centers, which is in Briarville Village off of East Washington Street, inside Meyer on 96th Street, off 117th and Fishers, and then 146th in Noblesville, please give my staff a little bit of grace. They're trying. You might catch me in there. So over the next few months, and then my wife's bakery, which is Sweetie's Gourmet Treats, they're still going strong. We're small business owners, but the holiday season is amongst us. Prayerful for that everyone has a blessed one. I lost my dad about 3 months ago, so hug your family members, man. Hug those people that are close to you, that you may not have a stronger relationship with that you had in the past, but just cherish time, man. Take care of yourselves, your bodies, and all that stuff. But give Miles and Raven a follow, and hopefully we'll get us a national championship in volleyball and a Big Ten championship in football, and then national championship in basketball, and then Miles gets there a back-to-back championship in basketball. Keep rolling.
We'll take it. All right,
much
appreciated. Thank you, Rose.
You guys have a good
Bye.
evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Catch you.
Thanks, Rosevelt.
I am telling you,
I didn't have to sell him any hope. He already has hope.
he's got it. That's I hope he didn't take offense to me saying he's an easier interview than Matt Painter. That's a compliment, man. He's got it. He's a good dude. So
Race, if he thinks your secondary tackle's worse than this one, what exactly were you guys doing in practice?
Man, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember half that. What happened there?
All right, guys, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this game. Riles, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can let's make this a conversation the rest of the night. We can go as little or as long as you want. We do have several people watching, so Riles, I guess start us off with, what do we expect to see Saturday? What's the keys to this game, and then we'll go to Race, and you sell us hope, and I'm going to go grab a beer, and I'll be right back.
Oh, I would say the biggest key to this game, and Race and I have talked about this, is that it's just a game to throw everything on the table, because Purdue, when the game closes, when the lines close, Purdue's going to be between 14 and 17-point underdogs. So if you throw every trick play you got in the book at them, and Michigan blows one up and it's a touchdown and you lose by 24 instead of 17, what does that matter? You're not one of those scenarios where you're not expected to win. So there's no point in being conservative. If you get an early 4th and 1 from your own 40, there's no point in punting. Go for it. Like, trust that your running back that's been a breakout star can get that yard. It would be one of those where we've talked, like, to see the Jeff Brown from 2017 and 2018, where it was at least one trick play a game. Hell, the 2017 game against Michigan opened with that throwback pass to David Blau. Like, now I'm not saying do that with Aiden, because that'll take roughly an hour and a half for him to go 40 yards, but just let everything out on the table. Like, it's no need to be conservative. If you don't have to settle, you don't need to on 4th and short punt or kick a field goal, go for it, because at the end of the day, not a lot of people are expecting Purdue to win. So you don't have a reason not to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
No, 100%. And Rosevelt was like, how did Michigan beat Ohio State? It's like Ohio State was not aggressive, or they were way too aggressive in situations where they shouldn't be aggressive. And in situations where they should have been aggressive, they were like, oh, no, we're just going to punt the ball away or run the ball for like nothing. So we definitely need to – we're playing with house money. We have to just call a good game. Just don't worry about being balanced. If something's working, something's working. If we're running the ball like consistently well, run the ball. If we're not, then just throw the ball. Like, we don't have to fit a single mold of like, oh, we need to be a balanced team. It must be 50-50. It was like, I saw Mike Leach had a quote. It's like, balanced offense isn't 50-50. It's like, no, I want to get the ball to my 5 best players. And if they're all wide receivers, then I'm going to get them the ball. It's like, who are our best players? Okay. Payne, Charlie, and Devin. We don't have to give Devin the ball running. Like last week with IU, the run plays were, just a swing pass out, and him in space is fantastic.
To touch on what Race is saying, I feel like Devin's the key here, because like he's saying, it doesn't have to be all run, doesn't have to be all pass, but utilizing Maccabee in both the run game and pass game has really elevated this offense. I feel like when we stray away from using Maccabee, the offense has kind of suffered at times. So I think he's really the key. No matter whether it's passing or running, we need to keep utilizing him. I think defensively, I don't know if you guys watched much of that Michigan-Ohio State game. Michigan burned Ohio State deep multiple times, and I don't think they were ready for it, because what has Michigan done all year? They've ran the ball. So I think we just need to kind of keep Michigan in front of us and not give up those big chunk plays. And I think those are the 2 big keys that'll help us at least stay in the game.
Well, and the main thing that happened with Michigan's long balls against Ohio State is Ohio State was playing basically straight zero coverage. And they all have terrible vision. They all had their eyes in the backfield. So the first one was just a missed tackle. The next one was a blown coverage because the backside safety just decided to not do his job. And then the other one was tight end out and up. Again, the safety has his eyes in the backfield, like, go jump it because I'm more athletic than you. and then he just gets burned. Like, we're not going to be running. I'd be very surprised if we run the same exact offense or defense as Ohio State, because that's not going to work. And we've done that in the past and it hasn't worked. So I think we'll see a little bit more zone concepts, hopefully.
And look at what Illinois did that gummed up Michigan. Illinois, under any Brett Bielema team, comes from that Iowa tree of defensive philosophy, whereas you're not going to get the big play on us. You're going to have to sustain a 10, 12 play drive to get points. And Michigan couldn't do that against Illinois until they got the benefit of a couple beneficial calls and drive.
And then Michigan's like, oh, we're going to do that to Ohio State. Oh, it actually works.
Yeah. So it's one of those where it's just finding that proper balance between the Penn State game, where we're super aggressive or super passive on defense late, and then the Syracuse game where we're super aggressive late. And you got to find – I don't have enough trust in this secondary that I'm just going to say, like you said, man up, zero coverage, and make them beat us, because we haven't seen the secondary be able to do that consistently. But I think it's going to come down to we've got the depth on the defensive line, and Michigan's blocking, especially pass blocking, hasn't been all that great. So if we can keep just a little bit of pressure on a young quarterback on a big stage, make them make mistakes, don't do anything that's going to help them, because you're already the underdog. You don't need to give them a busted play, because that's what they did against Ohio State. I think it was at least 4 of their scoring plays were 45 plus yards. Like if that happens Saturday, Purdue's dead in the water, because that's
in the main route concepts they run. We don't want to be in man. Their favorite route is a crossing route, and Ronnie Bell, he's just fast. That's really it. And Roman Wilson, number 14. So 8 and 14 are their crossers. You don't want to get into man that way, because then you got to get into a trail technique, and it just becomes chaos. Like you lose one step, that's where big plays can happen. And then especially you don't want to be in man, because JJ McCarthy has one read and then he scrambles, and that's where he's most effective, is outside the pocket, throwing on the run, just having that scramble drill.
So do you think that, I mean, Purdue's really got to play loose here, right? They've got to be pretty aggressive to win this game. Do we see that? Coach Brom open up the playbook, not be scared?
I actually argue against being too aggressive, because Ohio State did that, and that was when they were just Ohio State loves the home run ball. But where they were successful, and where Illinois was successful, and even Maryland was successful, were short passes, short to mid-range passes. Ohio State, where they struggled, was 15 plus yards, and they always wanted to throw those 15 plus yard balls. They had 1 or 2 that went their way, but most of them, they had good coverage in the back end. So it's like, we need to be patient, I think. But I want to see the trick plays. I do want to see them. I want to see at least like 5 or 6 of them. But we need to be content with having short passes for like short gains and stuff, because of the way Michigan's defense plays. Those things are open. And I mean, Ohio State, even if you look back, like they were doing that successfully, and then there'd be a drop ball or a penalty that was just dumb or something. And it's just like, if we can just sustain drives, like get those 10 to 12 play drives, keep Michigan's offense off, that'd be great.
So I agree.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Boiler.
No, so last week, I think, we added another player, Maccabee. We saw a lot from him, really step it up. I think if we can get him involved again this weekend, just like you said, those 5, 6, 7 yards at a time with 3 different guys on the field, I think we have a pretty good chance if we can just utilize each of them.
And what I'd love to see is getting Maccabee on the edges. Ohio State had good runs, and Illinois had good runs like outside the tackles, outside the guards, like running up the middle didn't really work. That's where you're seeing like your 1 to 2 yard gains, even a loss.
Yeah. So
quick thing was the one thing, and Ryan, you touched on it earlier about when talking about balance, was the last thing I want to see is if Michigan builds an early lead, that we go away from the run, because Brom has a tendency when Purdue falls behind or starts out slow, it's pass, mixed in an occasional run. With especially the offense we've seen the last couple of weeks, you have to keep the run game involved, even if it's not a traditional under center hand the ball off. If you run that read option that you've run with Aiden, that's suckered Indiana, it's suckered Illinois. They're not expecting it. Stuff like that can also get the ball to Devin out on the edges, where he's going to be more effective than up the middle. Even if it seems like we're in a hole, there's still time to run the ball and keep that option, because if we reduce this to where Aiden's got to drop back 50 times, it's going to be a bigger struggle than it needs to be.
So I agree with Race. I don't want us to be overly aggressive to a fault, but I want to see, like, in scenarios as needed, that fake punt from the Foster Farms Bowl, like plays like that, open up the book a little bit as needed and really get creative, because we really haven't seen any of that the last 2 years. So this is the game to do it, of any.
Race, when I was out, where's all this hope? Did you already sell it?
Oh, here. You want all the hope?
Give me the hope.
Okay. Where to start?
Well, okay, hold on. Let's start like this. You start us off, sell us this hope, and give us your game prediction. Then we'll go around and let's see what happens.
Michigan, I'm going to start this out. Michigan is a very, very good team. I think they're probably the best team in the nation, and that is me just throwing shade at the SEC because they're garbage. They're not garbage. They're second best. But they have their flaws, and Purdue fans should be, thanking God all day long like we are playing Michigan and not Ohio State. If we were playing Ohio State, this would not be a potentially close game. I don't see any way we beat Ohio State. We match up very well against what Michigan is. Offense, our defense against their offense. They're a very run-heavy offense. We've done, except -2 games all year long, we've done very well against the run. We've only given up 3 100-yard rushers and it would have been 2 if that guy from IU last week didn't have 100 yards on the nose. And they were just to Wisconsin and Iowa. Edwards, is he Donovan Edwards or Braden Edwards? I can't remember.
Donovan Edwards.
He is a fantastic back. He is not Blake Corum. Blake Corum would give us troubles day in and day out, all day long, and just be terrible for us because he's so good at cutting back. We've faced better running backs than Donovan Edwards, and we've held them to, what we've done. Like and everyone's like, oh, we're a terrible rush defense. No, we're not. We're the 37th best rush defense in the nation. We give up 128 yards a game, or 129 if you round up. And that's with those 2 debacles of Wisconsin and Iowa. So, but I mean, I can't throw those out because those actually happened. Their wide receivers aren't anything special. We've faced way better wide receivers this whole year. And we've done, okay at that. Maryland comes to mind. Maryland's wide receivers are way better than Michigan's. And if I remember correctly, minus that one long play at the end of the half, we actually did fairly well against their pass offense. Mm-hmm. Their quarterback, JJ, he's very good running the ball. In the pocket, he's good at throwing a crossing route, a out route to the left, and then a deep ball if he's wide open. If there's any coverage there, he's not very good at throwing an accurate ball. But you can't let him, get confident. He had a fantastic game against Ohio State. You cannot take anything away from what he did there, but that was kind of not what he's used to doing. So actually, just in general, Michigan last week against Ohio State, that is not Michigan that is known. Like, they had a great game plan. They won. Kudos to them. But our defense matches up pretty well. What we need to have happen is our inside linebackers fit their gaps really well. And Cam Allen, I think, needs to have a fantastic game. He's got to tackle. He just has to tackle. The inside linebackers have to fit their gaps. What happened with Michigan Ohio State last week is both those long runs is Tommy Eichenberg decided to not go into his gap because he was getting frustrated probably with the offense. And then Ransom missed a tackle on one of the long runs too. So Cam needs to tackle or at least hold up or slow down Donovan Edwards, probably when he breaks at least one or two of them. Am I still here?
Do we have a final game?
Oh, I've only talked about the defense.
Okay, I thought you were done. Go, keep going. Let's keep going.
Offensively, their corners aren't anything. We've faced better corners. Their D-line is good. But they have massively wide splits. So the ability to run will and should be there. May not be every single play, but we should be able to get, especially with Mockabee. When I watch more film of Mockabee, he looks like a younger Blake Corum. He's like, this is going to be fantastic. Like, he'll be fantastic eventually, but we should be able to hopefully get a few run plays in. Their linebackers are good. Their safeties are good. But I think there's weaknesses on this Michigan defense. They're very good in the red zone, so that's gonna be a thing. Is when we get like within 15-10 yards, their corners become very elite, which is not uncommon. That's less ground you have to cover. But we need to be very creative down in the red zone because we need touchdowns. We're not going to win with field goals. But one thing that has stuck out to me watching Michigan film is they struggle heavily when you have two tight ends in the pass set. And I couldn't tell you what it is, but like when you look back at Maryland's, the game against Maryland, their tight ends combined for 6 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. Luke Lachey of Iowa, number 2 tight end, he had 4 catches, 84 yards and a touchdown. I'm not saying Paul Paferi needs to put up those numbers, but for some reason, whenever a second tight end comes in, the defense changes. And we need to be able to get Payne in good situations where he's lined up against, they play basically 4-2-5. We need the nickel not on Payne. We need one of their linebackers or safeties covering Payne, and Payne should have a field day. So it's just, can Braum call a clean game? Can he? I've seen it before in 2017. So it's gonna have to be a complete game too. If we get down, we got to just keep on doing what we're doing. But I think there is more hope than people are really giving us. And people are looking too much at this Ohio State game, thinking like, oh, Purdue is the same team or does the same stuff as Ohio State. It's like, no, we don't. We actually pass for short. We pass for 5.3 yards a carry or 5.3 yards per attempt or something like that, which is not very long for a pass play. So I'm very hopeful, that our offense, especially what we've shown this year, can do what it needs to do against Michigan. Final score prediction. You can come back to that. I need to get off my hope train.
And this is something I'm sorry I should have done this before we started this segment, but we've got 2 special guest hosts on tonight. I'm gonna Boiler Blondie. Do you want? I guess real quick, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Why you're a Purdue fan, and then let's get your score prediction for.
All right. So I'm Brittany, and my grandfather, diehard Purdue fan, and I grew up watching Purdue with my grandpa, and I followed in his footsteps and went to Purdue in 2009. And he gave me this awesome bad call brick that I throw pretty much every game. So it's one of those things that's just been in the family for a really long time. Watch every game, pretty much any chance I can get. And I enjoy most of you tweeting nonstop during the game. So it's been fun. I'm going to go with Purdue 28, and I'm thinking Michigan 17. I liked Roosevelt's prediction on the 17 score there. I like that.
Oh, boy, we're already starting with the Boilers winning. I love that.
Yeah.
Ryan, you were a little froze earlier. Are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm here. You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yep.
you.
Cool.
You're frozen though, so I'll take you off the big screen. We can hear you.
All right, cool.
Give us some game predictions here.
All right, so first off, well, I'm a Purdue fan. Starts with the old man. Started watching Purdue. It was always on TV, basketball, football. When I could remember was kind of during the Kyle Orton years, and then for basketball, the Hummel years. Been a fan ever since. I couldn't tell you a game that I've missed. I'll do anything and everything to not miss a game. Other family members went there, so I've just been a diehard my whole life. Leading into this game, I don't want to bet or pick Michigan, although I think that they're probably going to win. But for the sake of Purdue podcast, I'm going to go Purdue 35-28. I think to win, we're going to have to score a lot of points because with what Michigan did to Ohio State and Riles, you touched on it, our secondary issues, I think those have kind of been a problem all season. So I think that Michigan's going to score points. So in order for us to win, we're going to have to outscore them.
Okay. All right. So we're 2 for 2 on Purdue winning. Let's go to Riles. Riles, what you got?
Michigan probably 31, Purdue 20. It's just anything being in this game is, I know like people are going to be like, I'm normally tend towards the pessimistic side because it's a lot more fun being mad at your team than being super excited because you can always find something to be mad about versus be excited about. And I just think we match up well with Michigan, but they just kind of do everything a little bit better. And they've got a little bit more talent than we do. And I think it's probably going to rear its ugly head during it, but our special teams went from the start of the year where it was like, this might be, we've added an all Big Ten returner. We're bringing back a kicker that was pretty solid last year. Turns out we still can't return kicks, and now we have a kicker who cannot put the ball through the uprights. And so it very well could be one of those where it's a game where it's back and forth, it's close, end up like 4th and 6, so we kick a 42, 43-yard field goal, miss, Michigan goes down, scores, and right there, that's kind of my big fear is that I don't think on the margins what this team has shown all year is clean enough on the margins to pull something out. But then again, I didn't think last year's team was going to beat 2 top 5 teams. So it can happen. I expect Purdue to keep it close. I don't expect them to win, but I've been wrong many times before.
So I'm not even gonna give you a final score, but I'm gonna give you a very specific way this game ends. And we're going to see if we nail this like we did the Maryland game, like I did the Maryland game. I think that Purdue comes back from down double, 2 scores to tie the game. And in the 4th quarter, at the end of the game, they block a Michigan field goal only to get possession back and drive down, and Finneran hits the longest of his career to win the game. That's my
He's indoors.
Yeah, we're indoors, and he's got what a better moment to cap off this. Well, not the end of the season, but what a better way to get launched into the Rose Bowl with a guy that struggled a little bit through the year. So, Race, you've had time. What do we got?
Michigan probably beats us 9 out of 10 times. So it's whether I can bring myself to pick the one time.
What happened Saturday?
What happened Saturday? I'll just say 30-28 Purdue.
Okay, so we're going with a 10%er. With a 10%.
Might as well. I mean, you got plus 600 odds. Gonna throw down some fun money on there because why not?
I mean,
as well.
They play the game for a reason, right? I mean, and Purdue's done a lot harder tasks. So
here's the thing with college football. If you have the better quarterback, you're going to win a majority of the time. I think AOC is a better quarterback than JJ McCarthy. And if I follow that rule, I think we win.
What happened in the Iowa game in Wisconsin?
Wisconsin were cursed, if you haven't realized that. Right. And with Iowa, if there is any hint of precipitation in the air, like Jeff's offense just has never done well.
Okay, I got you. All right, guys. Race, Ryan, Boiler Blondie, you guys got anything else before we wrap this up tonight?
No, thanks for letting me join. I had fun. It was really cool to be, in this presence of Roosevelt. I thought that was really awesome. So thanks for having me on tonight.
No, it's really cool. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks to Roosevelt for taking 45 minutes out of his night and joining us amateurs. On behalf of BUBD, I sure as hell hope the Boilers win Saturday. And I'll tell you this, Boiler Nation, I know tickets are expensive Saturday. They may come down, they may not, but get your asses to Lucas Oil Stadium. We need that. It's in the middle of our home state. We're playing for a damn Big Ten championship in a game that we had probably no right to get into, but we're there.
Here's the biggest thing. When is the next time Purdue's going to be here?
That's exactly right. That's exactly
right. Not next year with that schedule. UCLA and USC come the next year, and it's going to get rid of divisions.
Oh, I'll answer that. No, we're going to be there every year from here on out.
From here on out,
Big Ten West champions, and we're going to remain there.
So I've been to multiple Big Ten championships with Ohio State, Wisconsin over the years, and I'll tell you what, it is a fantastic experience. So for Purdue to be here, this is awesome, and everybody should go and enjoy it.
I totally agree. I mean, don't be kicking yourself, especially after Purdue wins, that you didn't go to the game. And every black and gold butt in the seat there's sure going to help. We don't want more maize and blue in that stadium than black and gold when it's smack dab in the middle of our state. You got Race coming all the way from New York. So if he can do it, we can all do it, right?
Just hoping, look, all my planes are on time.
Exactly. All right, guys, I'll wrap this up. On behalf of BUBD, thanks for everybody for joining. Thanks for bearing with us on this new platform and live streaming thing. I hope it worked well. I don't have any way to confirm that, so maybe nobody even watched this tonight. But regardless, thanks to everybody for joining us, and go Boilers.
Boiler up.
All right.